who would get a payment under the next round of stimulus payments? Because as this HEROES Act sits on the desks of the Senate, we're hearing reports this week that that has become a bit of a framework between Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell to put all of this together and to get some sort of a stimulus package passed and out the door. So what would that look like? Well, the framework already exists, and many of you have been asking questions, very specific questions, like, well, how would I qualify? Like, what if I have my college student is home, he's 18 years old, I've got this person, he's a dependent. So I want to go through some of the numbers on who would qualify for a stimulus check under the current framework, which we are hearing reports is the basis, is some of the scaffolding of what would finally emerge. Now, this isn't final yet, but this is coming together, and this would be part of this. So, those who would qualify for this are low and middle income households. Low and middle income households, just like the original CARES Act. So under the HEROES Act, that's what this would look like. Single taxpayers, so single taxpayers with a maximum gross income of $75,000. $150,000 for married couples. So again, single taxpayers with maximum gross income of $75,000. $150,000 for married couples. Now, above the $75,000 limit, that would be phased out up to $98,000. So if you make more than $75,000, maybe you make $78,000, maybe you make $85,000, it would be phased out as it goes up that ladder up to $98,000. Anything above $98,000, you simply don't qualify. Very important. And then, of course, the same thing is true for married couples. That number is also up to $199,000. It goes from $150,000 up to $199,000, and it's phased out after there at $199,000. Children, this is a big one because this is different than it was under the CARES Act. This is much more generous under the HEROES Act. Children, including 17 and 18-year-olds, would receive $1,200 up to 3 children. Now, that's different, again, than the CARES Act because, as you'll recall, under the CARES Act, what a disaster that was. So many of you wrote to me and complained that you had filed, you went on the website, updated the amount of dependents that you had, let them know that you had dependents, and then they sent you the wrong amount. Now, you'll still receive that wrong amount or the difference in next year's tax return as a tax credit. Remember that the CARES Act was a tax credit for the 2020 calendar tax year. So when you file your taxes in 2021, if you didn't get any of those dependency payments that you were supposed to, that's when you can put that on the list, and then you'll get that as part of your refund. That's very important. But anyway, during the first CARES Act, it was only $500 per dependent. $500 per dependent. So this time, under the HEROES Act, or a version of that HEROES Act, we're hearing that the dependents would get up to $1,200. $1,200 per dependent under the HEROES Act. That's far more generous. And again, it would go up to 3 people. So it is possible, for a person in that household, a family, to get up to $6,000 under the HEROES Act if this passes in its current framework. Also, Americans married to immigrants. Unlike the CARES Act, the HEROES Act would allow those spouses a stimulus check to American citizens who are married to immigrants without a Social Security number. It was very weird, and there was a couple of discrimination lawsuits that were filed actually as a result of that, where they were blocked. So if you're an American citizen and you were married to someone without a Social Security number, you didn't get a stimulus check. So again, there were a number of lawsuits filed facing discrimination against that very reason. If you're an American citizen, you should have access to that. Anyway, under the HEROES Act, they've remedied that. Now you would be able to get that. Also, children, including 17 and 18-year-olds, would receive this as well. So there was questions, well, if I'm in the first CARES Act, it was 16 years old. Now it's 17 and 18. Also, adult dependents. This is a big question many of you have had. Adult dependents would also receive the stimulus check. So there's a lot of folks here who watch our show who have said, have let me know in our comments, and please let me know in the comments today. Are you one of those? You're taking care of an adult individual who is perhaps disabled. Somebody said, I'm taking care of my son who's schizophrenic, lives at home with us. He's an adult. Under the CARES Act, he wouldn't have qualified. Under this framework, he will qualify. He will receive $1,200 under this framework if it's passed. So that's very important. That's a big distinction. So again, we are hearing reports that this is some of the framework that is being discussed right now between Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, going back and forth right now on this HEROES Act was sitting on the Senate's desk. Pieces of it are starting to be used as a framework going forward, including assistance for state and local governments. Now, took up a huge portion of that $3 trillion HEROES Act that they passed. I don't know that it will be that large, but there will be payments made, according to sources that are working in Mitch McConnell's office, that there would be direct payments going out to state and local governments. Again, California, New Jersey, New York, other big states that were hit really hard, but a lot of red states too. This is not just a blue state bailout, as some have tried to label it. It would also then cover this liability protection that Mitch McConnell wants. So there's been some back and forth on these pieces, and I think it is shaping up that we will see some form of this next round of direct stimulus. And again, from the White House has been pushing hard for this payroll tax cut. President Trump yesterday said the same thing, that he said we will get back to our same unemployment level, 3.5%. Now that is incredibly wishful thinking, don't you think? We're going to be back there at 3.5%. And he said your paycheck will be even bigger than before. Now, during the 2016 tax cuts, President Trump passed a payroll tax cut. And not a lot of Republicans were terribly on board with that. Because how do you pay for things when you don't have payroll taxes coming in? You know, there's a big way that the federal government makes money, and that's a big one. Do you raise gas taxes to make up for it? What do? You need revenue. And the White House, federal government right now is running a massive $20 trillion deficit. And where are we going to come up with this money? So the White House wants some sort of a payroll tax cut. Not a lot of Republicans are on board with that. We will see. In fact, some Republicans are coming forward, Rob Portman and others, saying that we would like to see, as part of this next stimulus, some sort of deficit reduction as part of the stimulus package. Democrats are not going to support that, so that's probably a non-starter. But all of these different pieces are floating around. And if you watched my earlier story, if you didn't see it, you can click on the video below and check out the story that we did on the White House being a total mess. I think you'd find that interesting because the White House basically is on two different pages. Right now they're saying that Peter Navarro went there and went rogue with his plans for $2 trillion, that the White House actually doesn't want to spend $2 trillion, and they can't get on the same page. And Republican members of Congress are saying, what does the White House want? Let us know. So check out that video below, or right here is the video coming up next that you can check out as well. So my thanks to all of you for watching today. Please subscribe to the channel, leave some comments below. Let me know what you want to see in this next round of stimulus. And did you find today's show helpful? Let's check in with Grover one more time to say goodbye. Oh, fine, he went back to sleep. That's good. That's good, little buddy. So from my house to yours, from my 3-month-old mini pincher to yours, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for subscribing to the show.